you're all safe. And we are going to talk about the basics of web application development using Python Flask. First, my name is Purushottam. So I have about 14 years of experience in the industry. So I have my own companies, Mindful Learning, and also we also have a product development company. We are primarily focused on machine vision, web applications development, embedded systems development, and things like that. So what I'm going to do is, like in the next 1 hour, I'm going to introduce to you how we can develop web applications using Python Flask. So can you briefly introduce yourselves, like probably on the chat box maybe, so that I can just like kind of get a brief of what is your background and things like that. Okay, Surajit Ghosh, account manager with Talent Software Services. Great. I mean, what kind of backgrounds you have? Is it that you are already into web development, or you're new to Python? How is it? How is it going for you guys? New to Python. So Surojit is new to Python. So I think there is Mr. Shashidhar. Shashidhar, how about you, Mr. Shashidhar? So are you new to Python? Okay, so there isn't any response as such. Uh, okay, and what? Okay, Shashidhar, Hyderabad working as HR, new to Python. And what about Mr. Nitin Bansa? So can you just quickly just shoot out what exactly is your background? And then there is Mr. Nagarajan. And I think four of your, yeah, Miss Sapna. Okay, admin. So technical support at IBO, even new to Python. Okay, great. All right. Okay. Right. So I didn't get anything about, I think, Nagarajan and Nitin, but we'll wait for that. But before that, let us talk about a bit on what Python is, because few of you have said you're new to Python. So Python is a programming language, a computer programming language. The programming languages are designed to instruct computers about what they should be performing. Hence, we need computer programming languages. So there were a lot of computer programming languages ever since several decades, like maybe like about 7 decades. For the last 7 decades, the programming languages have been really being developed and evolved over time. However, Python happens to be one of the most modern programming languages. Python happens to be one of the most modern programming languages.
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah. Yes, I have joined.
Jitendra, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Jitendra. So just type in what is your background on the chat box, and please mute your.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. Not an issue. Yeah. Yeah, so Python happens to be one of the most modern programming languages, and it is very simple to learn. So whenever I just get a chance to actually talk about Python, I always tell people that if you know English, you almost know half of Python. It's that simple. But at the same time, though it is so simple, it is very effective. It's very effective. It's very powerful. Python is open source, and there is a lot of people around the world who are actually contributing to the development of Python programming language, right? So that is what Python can actually do. So what I want to do today is, since most of you are new to Python, probably I'll just give you a brief intro on what we can do with Python, and also I'll also introduce to you something on Python Flask, because without understanding what Python is, you'll not be really uh, not be really understanding what Python Flask is. Yeah. Uh, so what I'll do is, for the newcomers, I'll just quickly introduce what Python is all about and how we go about programming something. And you don't have to get into the details of it. This is basically a webinar, and since it is a webinar, we need to know a lot of things about. Since it is a webinar, we need to know. Uh, just a moment. There was a slight glitch. Everybody is able to hear? I hope so. Yeah. Since it is a webinar, I'm just going to go and show you what we can do with Python and what we can do with Python Flask, so that you get a understanding, or just an understanding about what Python is capable of doing. And this could be the starting point, and the amount of learning that you can do over a period of time is unlimited in this. So there are a lot of things that you can do. If you think about what are the different areas where Python is being used, it is used in a variety of domains. To name a few, so it is used in research and development. It is used in web development. It is used in data science and machine learning. It is used in things like artificial intelligence. Okay, it is used in mobile applications development. It is used in game programming. It is used in mobile applications development. It is used in bioinformatics. It is used in aerospace. These are some of the things, to name a few. Even pharmaceutical companies are now planning to use them, and that even chartered accountants use Python for certain statistical computations and things like that. That is the scenario where Python is being used in the world today. Now, learning Python is of utmost importance if you want to be in the IT industry. Okay? Today, the IT industry is such that if you do not know a programming language well, then it would become a serious technical handicap for a person. What is a handicap? Handicap means you are seriously limited in doing something. So that's what we call handicap. So imagine you are trying to be in the IT industry and you have a technical handicap. So that's not acceptable. So one programming language minimum, okay, so should be learned thoroughly well for anybody who wants to be in the IT field, be it web development, DevOps, or you know, process automation, or data science, or artificial intelligence, whatever it might be. One programming language is a must. So that also gives you a foundation for doing a lot of things, right? Now, Python is very simple, and you can do a lot of things with it. So without wasting a lot of time, so let me just quickly open up a small text editor and show you what Python can do. So here, without actually getting into a lot of details about what Python is all about and what are the different constructs that are supported in Python, or the different data types supported in Python, I will straight away go ahead and show you a very small example which can be solved using Python. Okay, so I'm going to take some fun example here. Okay, so that is what we call as, let us say, a word jumble game. Okay, let's design a simple game, because I told you Python is used for a lot of things. So I want to show you something with respect to Python, and also with respect to Flask, what Flask can do and what Python can do, right? So we are going to design, as a team, let us design one small game. It's not really lucrative with the graphics and things like that. It's a simple game, and I just want to showcase what is the capabilities of Python here. So we're going to talk about something called as a word jumble game. Now, what is a word jumble game? It's a very simple game where the user is presented a word, but the word is actually jumbled. Okay, so let me share my screen right now. Okay, so let me open up my editor. Just a moment. So the starter. Okay, so share. So hopefully you should be able to see my screen now. Yeah, great. So we have the screen right now. So what I'm trying to use here is IDE. IDE means Integrated Development Environment. So it is basically an environment where uh, you know programs are developed. The code is developed, the application is developed. Okay. So I'll just create a simple file called word jumble .py because wordjumble.py because it's a Python file. So as soon as I do it, you get an interface like this. So as you can see, let me quickly introduce what this is. This is what we call as the Atom ID. It is very easily downloadable. So all that you have to go is you can just visit atom.io, and it is very easily downloadable. And you can actually download a few uh, plugins to actually run Python. Or otherwise, you can simply download Python for Windows. You can just Google it, and you can just simply install it, and you can actually do it. So this is the area where I'll start writing the code. This is a project, and I've just used the wordjumble.py here to actually actually write the code. Okay, it is open here. Okay, and then this is the area where I can issue commands. Okay, as you can see, I can issue commands here. Okay, so I can issue commands here, and this is where I write the code in this area, right? So let us start with the word jumble game. The word jumble game is, as I earlier said, it is going to present the user a jumbled version of a word, and the user is actually supposed to get it. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first create a layout for creating the program. So first thing is, so when I create a hash like this, it is basically comments. So comments are used to actually document the code. Okay. Comments are used to actually document the code, right? Now here what I'm going to do is I'm going to write down all the steps that is required to actually create a code. Okay. So let us start. So first we need to have a collection of words. We need to have a collection of words. And the second thing is after having a collection of words, we need to get some word in random. Okay? Just get some word in random. Get some word in random from the created list. Remember, this is not really the Python code. It is the steps that I need to use, or rather, I'm actually creating an algorithm to actually create this game. Okay, get some word in random and jumble the word. Jumble the word, then present it to the user, and finally get the user input. Okay, then compare it with the selected original word, and finally display the result. Okay, these are the steps. So hopefully everybody should be able to really understand what these steps are. Now, once you have these steps in place, all that we have to do is we have to write the Python equivalent code on top of this to actually get whatever we need, right? So that's what we are actually going to do. And let me open up the chat box if there is any questions. So is there any questions at this point before I start writing the code? Please remember, you don't have to really understand each and every piece of code. It is just that I want to showcase the capabilities of Python so that you really get a feel of it. Okay, so you're not supposed to really understand each and every word of it. Okay, if you have any questions, you can just post it on the chat box. I'll be able to answer all. So let me have a collection of words. So in Python, there is a data type called list. So the list can be written like this. So L is equal to, in square brackets, I can write all the words I need. So let me say apples. Okay. So mangoes. So cherries. Okay. And then
हाँ नेट चल रहा है बराबर मीटिंग करने के लिए
melons. Okay, so let's have four of these, and I need to pick up a random word from this. Okay, so in order to pick up a random word, random pickup means I should not take this in a sequence in which I have written. So I should not pick up apples or mangoes or cherries or melons in a sequence or something like that. I should pick something randomly from this entire list. So probably I might pick up a mango, cherries, whatever it is. So in order to do that, we have the function called module called random in Python, and we will use the choice function in random out here. The module is a collection of functions. So functions are those which can do some tasks. So they are entities which can do some tasks. The choice is a function which is there inside random module, which can pick up a particular element from the collection of words, whatever we have. So when we have random.choice_L, so what it does is it is going to choose one of the words. It is going to choose one of the words from L, and it returns it. So when it returns it, so I can store it in a variable called RC. Okay, so the random choice RC, that is randomly selected by the computer, right? That choice is picked up and it is stored in RC. Now, in order to jumble the word, so we have to follow a small technique here. So what we're going to do is, first we're going to create another variable, RC2 equal to list of RC. So what we are trying to do is, let me show you what exactly it does. Python is very interesting. See, here I am developing the code, isn't it? Here we can also experiment what each and every piece of the statement actually does. Okay, so let me show you what exactly is happening. So let me have a string called apples. When I say f1 is equal to list of f, that's what I'm trying to do there in the top. So you see what happens in the S. So you get apples, but everything is split up here. Everything is split up. So that's what it does, and that is very important because I need to actually shuffle this in order to jumble the word, right? So in order to jumble the word, I have to shuffle this, and what I need to do here is basically take this word and shuffle it and reconstruct a list from it. So let me show you how it is done. Hello. Okay, so there was again a small glitch. Just a moment. Just a moment. Hold on, please. Yeah, I'm back. Sorry about that. That was a power glitch. Okay, so let me come back here and show you what exactly I'm talking about. So in order to shuffle this word, so what we have to do is we have to import a module called random. Okay, and what I'm going to do is random dot shuffle S1. So if you do that, if you see S1, you see the same apples is in a different order here. Same apples is in a different order. Now, if I join this S1, you get you get some word which is actually jumbled. I'm going to use this. I'm going to use this or adopt this logic here. Okay, so the same steps I'm going to do here. So RC2 is like S. RC2 is just the S that S is the RC. RC2 is like the S1. So obviously it will have the list. So what I need to do is I'll have to say random.shuffle RC2. Random.shuffle RC2. After shuffling RC2, see the jumbled word JW. Let me call it as jumbled word. So JW jumbled word is equal to the join of RC2 after splitting it. Okay, so that's the jumbled word. You see, this is whatever the join I used here. I'm just adopting it here in my code. See, in Python, this is the beauty of Python. So it has got something called as the shell mode. So this is the shell mode of Python. Okay, so this is the shell mode of Python, and this is what we call as the script mode. The shell mode can be used for experimenting with each and every construct of Python, just like the way I showed you, right? And the script mode is actually used to actually develop a code that actually works. The shell mode is used whenever you want to execute the statements one by one. Okay, and the script is the entire code itself. Script is the entire code itself. So what I'm going to do right now is the jumbled word has been produced here. Jumbled word has been produced here, and I'm going to present it to the user. So how do I present it to the user? Just I'm going to say a print, okay, and say some message. The jumbled word is okay. I'm just going to say that, and then at the end, so I'll just say jumbled word. Okay, so I'll just say jumbled. I'm just going to present it to the user, and finally, I'm just going to say, can you guess the word? Remember, I'm basically uh, I'm basically showing only the jumbled word. The word that has been selected is not shown to the user. It is used only in the internal input. And here I'm supposed to take an input from the user. Hence, I'm going to say the user word UW equal to input. Can you guess the word? So what this input function does is basically it takes the keyboard input from the user. Okay. Now that is what is done here. So this is under this. I'm just getting the user input. I'm getting the user input here, and after getting the user input, I'm supposed to compare whether the user has input the right word or has he guessed it right with the selected word. What is the selected word is the random choice that we have, RC. So I have to compare. If user input word is equal to RC, the randomly selected word, then result. So you can say result equal to. So we'll just say true. So some boolean values, true and false are called boolean values. Again, please don't really worry about any of these. So I'm just showing you the technical capabilities of Python so that it gives you a kickstarter. And the result equal to false. Result equal to false. So this is what happens. So once we have the true or false, you can just display the result. So here the result is very simple. If the result is true, then obviously the guy has guessed it right. person who was gaming and was actually guessed it right. Okay, so you have to say congratulations, you guessed it right. Otherwise, you have to say no, please try again or something like that. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to print that. So if result equal to true, so I'll say print congratulations, you guessed it right. Okay, and otherwise, if that doesn't happen, let's say if it did not get it right. Okay, so print, I'll say print, please try again. That's it. You see, the code is ready. All that you have to do whenever you're writing a code in Python, you just chalk out all the steps that you want to do, and then replace under each of these headings, write your piece of Python code. Okay. So, and in order to write this piece of Python code, you have the support from the shell mode of Python. Okay. So what I'm going to do in order to run this particular piece of game that we developed, I'm going to exit from here. Okay, so that I can exit from the shell mode, and I have I can so that I can actually run the Python code here. Okay. All right. So let me run that. Just a moment. Just a moment. There is a power glitch again. I'll just get back to you in a minute. Yeah, I think we should be able to go ahead now. Right now, so what I can, in order to work with this. Hello. Okay, so I'll just share the screen again. Yeah. Yeah, so you should be able to see my screen again. Right. Now here, if we have to run this particular thing, all that we have to do is just exit from the shell so that I can run the Python script here. So what I'll do is I'll say Python, okay, Python, the name of the file, so word jumble.py. Okay. So if you see, so there must be a glitch here again. So let's see what is the problem here. So let us try this and see. So let's see ls. So we have the word jumble.py. So I have not saved this. So I'll just save this. Okay. So since I'm not saved, so it was showing 0 bytes here. So That was a problem. So right now, if I go back here and then say, we'll start running. Now it is saying there is a name random, which is basically not defined. So in order to set right that, what we have to observe here is I'm using this module called random. And this random is supposed to be imported. It is not visible just like that. So we have to import it. So what I'm going to do is we have to import random. Random. So now if you go back here and say, it's showing the jumbled word is MNOSEL. So we do not know what exactly it is. Let me try and say, guess something. Okay, so let's simply say monkey or something. Okay, it says please try again. So it's not the correct word. Basically, it was melons actually. So as you can see, it had chosen melons. So that's why it is like that. So next one is let's say word jumble. Let me run it once again. This time to guess it right and see what happens. So it is giving me a jumbled word like this. So clearly it is mangoes. Let me do that. So you can see, congratulations, you guessed it right. Okay. So any questions? So that was what we could do with Python, core Python. So this is pure Python. So there is nothing like it is not associated with web development or data science or anything like that. It is pure Python. Okay, so that's what I just wanted to show. That's what I just want to highlight here. Okay. As I told you, Python can also be used with one more thing. Let me give you one more demo of what Python can do, because most of your newcomers to Python, I'm going to use one more Python interface called idle. Okay. Okay. So this is another Python interface, just like what we did here. We can also do the same thing here. Okay, so here I'm just going to showcase how Python can be used for data visualization. So this is one of the things that people do in data science. Okay, so let me show you. So data visualization is all about having to project graphs and things like that. So let me give you a quick example of that. So in order to work with data visualization, so we are supposed to use something called Matplotlib .pyplot. So this is the plotting thing. So as PLT. So PLT is the alias name. Again, don't worry about anything here. These are all syntaxes, vocabularies of Python. So I just want to show again. Let me. It might be repetitive. I'm just showing you the different capacities or capabilities of Python in this 1 hour webinar, so that would give you the Kickstarter for your learning process. Okay, I'll also import random, so the same random library that I use. Okay, here I'm going to produce some data for the x-axis. So for x-axis, I'll produce data range. So there is a function called range. So I will use a list of range of 0 to 10. So I'll just create a list like that. And y, I'll have some values for y. So y, I'll just do something called the comprehension. For a, say random dot ran int, it will just select some random number between 0 and 100. Okay. Okay. For a in range 0, 10. So this is what we call as a comprehension. It just create some list of values. You just see this. So there's a list of values here. So this is some values. Now this is the data we have. Now let us say I want to project this data as a graph. Okay, project this data as a graph. So what I can do with that, that particular scenario. So in order to do that, we're going to use something called as Matplotlib. Okay, and that will help me or give me enough functions with which we can Yeah. Please tell me the doubt. No problems. You can just speak out or even type it in the chat box. No problem. We can talk. Oh, you couldn't understand the core process of this. Please don't. Don't. It's not about understanding. Don't worry about it. See, it needs a formal training. It needs a formal training. By the end of the session, I'm going to guide you where you can get the formal training to actually develop code like this or completely learn the entire Python programming process. I mean, Python programming concepts and also use Python for various applications. Okay, so don't worry about that right now because in 1 hour we can't do much. So it takes a lot of time to actually learn it, but I just want you to see this is something to for you to see right now. There's something new that is happening. So and I'm just showing you what are the things. So the first example I took, I just developed a game. The second thing I'm just showing you how it can be used for working with data. Okay, so and showcasing data. The next thing that I'm going to show you is how you can develop web applications on it. So likewise, you have various applications. Okay, so 3 applications you would have seen, and that would that should give you enough motivations to actually go and explore what are the different opportunities you have in the industry with Python. Okay, so that is the idea. And by the end of this webinar, I am open for all the Q&A sessions. You can get all the things clarified. Okay, so just have a feel of all these things. Okay, so let's come back to this and say X and Y are 2 different data sets. Let's say this data is not making any sense to me. I'm not able to, let us say, there's only 10 units here, but sometimes there are millions of units. That's why data science come into picture. So you can't see millions of units of data on the screen and decide which is what. You can't extract statistics out of it. So what we have to do is we'll have to create graphs for them. So here I'm going to produce 2 different types of graphs. One is called as a line graph and the other one is called as a bar graph. Let me show you how it really works. Okay, so here plt.log, okay, x comma y color equal to b. So I'll just do something like this. You get a Matplotlib function, and I'll say plt.show. Again, don't worry; these are all inbuilt functions. And if through a systematic learning process, we can always come back. You can see this is the line. Okay. Similarly, we can also have something called as a bar graph. So all that you have to do for bar graph is saying bar x comma y color equal to, or let me change color here to red. So I'll just have to say plt.show. This is the bar graph. Now, what if you want to have merge both the line graph and bar? So that's also very easy here. So let me show you how it is done. plt.log x comma y color equal to b. Okay. plt.log. So this is a bar graph that I need. So x comma y color equal to, let's say we'll have a green or maybe white. So I'll say plt.show. You can see the bar plot and the line plot together. So likewise, there are so many different types of plotting mechanisms in Python, so that can be really helpful in data visualization. Yeah, PLT means plot. That's it. It's a short, let's say a short notation for a plot. PLT. Yeah, that's right. That's correct. PLT means a plot. It's a graph. Okay, so it's a shortcut notation for graph. As you can see here, what I'm saying is I'm importing this entire library called PyPlot, which is a graphing library, as PLT. So basically, PLT represents the entire graphing library, right? Hopefully, it answered that question. Okay. So this is what this is what Python. This is how Python can be used for data analysis, and there are a lot of things that you can do with Python. I'm just showing you a small piece of it so that it kickstarts your thought process, right? So that's the main idea here. Now let us come to one more concept here. So which we call as the Python Flask, which was originally the main topic here to discuss. So Python Flask is a module or is a library which can help you develop web applications. So web applications generally have this kind of a setup. So there will be something called as a server, okay, and there will be something called as a client. So most of you might be really familiar with these things. But if not, that's not an issue also. So here we're just going to understand what this client and server is. See, the client is basically the browsers that we use. So we have a browser, right? So the Chrome browser, the Firefox browser, the Opera browser, all these browsers are clients. And through these clients, we're going to request certain data to the server. So this is what we do. So the server, the request goes to the server, and the server pulls out all the information that you need and sends that data back to the client, and that is what gets displayed. So when you say google.com, so when you go to any website and say Google, or probably take google.com and then just type in some word, let's say we have the coronavirus now. So let's say coronavirus. So it gives you all the tagged information about coronavirus websites that have been tagged in. So where did that come from? So it actually was stored in Google's server, and you were the client who actually requested through a browser. So the request went in, and the server gave you a response back. So the entire web, okay, the entire web actually works on this model. It's a very simple model that I showed you here, but it has got its own set of complications, details, and things like that. So the idea is not to really get into all those details. Okay, the idea is to really understand how Python can be helpful for developing a system like this. Okay. Now, the client is always the end user of the internet, and the server is where all the information is kept. Okay, the server is where all the information is kept. So whenever the client needs the data, the server actually responds with that data. Okay, so how do we develop a system like this? Okay, so what happens is, in order to develop the client interface, we use HTML, okay, the CSS, the JavaScript, and many more things based on HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Okay, so today we have HTML5, CSS3. Then there are so many CSS libraries called Bootstrap. JavaScript has its own frameworks such as the AngularJS, the Node.js, the Vue.js, React.js, Electron.js, a lot of things like that. So these are the things that are used to actually develop the client software, the client interface, and it is also called as the web front. So this is also called as the web front. This is also called as the web front end. Similarly, the server is developed using various other things. So the server part can be developed in various things like Java, Python, okay, so PHP, etc., etc., etc. So there are so many ways in which you can actually do that. So I'm going to talk about how it is done in Python. So how it is done in Python. In Python, basically we have two things. In Python, we have basically two things called as Django framework and Flask framework. Django framework and the Flask framework. So that is what is used to develop server applications using Python. And in Django and Flask, we use a set of things called a concept called model, view, and control. Model. Let me write that down. View, okay, view, and then we have something called as a control. Okay, so model, view, and control. Now the model means, okay, I'll tell you in very layman terms because this is a concept. This is a bit of a concept. So here I'll make it very simple. So I'll tell you what this thing is about. So model means the data that is kept with the or the database tables that are kept in the system. So models means it refers to the database. The databases are places where the data is present, data is stored. So that is what we call as models. The view means how the data is supposed to be presented to the client. View means how data should be presented to the client. So the controller is the logic which pulls out appropriate data from the models, creates a view, and sends it to the client. So it does 3 steps. So just remember 3 steps. What does the controller do? It accepts the request from the client. So the client is the one who requests. So let me write that down. The client is the one who gives the request. Okay. And the server basically responds. So it sends the response. It sends the response. Okay. Now what this controller does is it is going to accept the request from the client, processes the request, and figures out what is the data that needs to be fetched out from the models. And whatever data is fetched out from the models is, is created, is formatted in a proper way to create something called as a view. And the view is sent as a response to the client. The view is what is sent as a response to the client. So this is how the modern websites actually work. Okay, this is a very short introduction, on how the web applications or the entire internet actually works. The client gives a request. On the server, the controller mechanism is going to accept the request, and once the request is accepted, it decodes what the request is all about. And once the request is decoded, it will fetch the appropriate models. Models means the data. Okay. And once the data is fetched, it is formatted in a proper. It is formatted into a proper view, and the view is sent as a response to the client. Okay. Now, what we are going to do is we must talk a bit about Flask. We're going to talk a bit about Flask. So Django is also similar, but I've chosen Flask today because that was the main idea to talk about today, Flask. And in Flask, we do these model view controller tasks. Okay. Now, what the model view controller is also, abbreviated as MVC. Okay. So the modern websites are developed using the MVC architecture. Okay. And using the Flask, we will adopt the MVC architecture to actually create a simple web applications, which I'm going to give you a simple demonstration right now. Yeah. Is Django also a type of framework? Yes, exactly. So Django is also a framework like Flask. But still, it uses the MVC control. There is nothing as such. We can still create the same kind of websites using both Django and Flask. Django was developed by one group of Python users. Flask was developed by another group of users. Basically, Flask is much simpler compared to Django. And the Flask is used whenever you want to develop small-scale web applications to intermediate-scale web applications. right? Django is used, of course, simple can always be done. So intermediate to complex applications can be developed using Django, right? But however, there is nothing as capability-wise, there is nothing like Flask can only do this, Django can only do this, or something like that. So both can do things. It's only a matter of preference of a company what they want to use. Okay, so that's the main idea. So let me go back to our integrated development environment, so IDE. So here I'm going to show you how to install Flask. Okay, how to work with Flask. In order to work with Flask, first we have to install Flask. Okay, so Flask actually doesn't come with native Python, so we have to install it separately. So what you have to do is you have to say pip install Python Flask. So when you issue this command, it is going to install the Flask module. It's Flask module into this environment, and you should be able to import it like random or any other module. Okay, so that is like Flask. I can't say it's almost equal, but it is definitely easier than Django because Django requires a bit of setup. Requirements are there. So if Flask, you can straight away start working with websites, web building, and things like that. But in order to work with Django, first you need to do a little bit of setup. So that the setup part is a bit bit tricky. So you need to be really understanding what your website requires and things like that. And when it comes to, if you want to really compare Django and Flask, you need to take at least an intermediate level web application. Okay, so when you take the intermediate level web application, you should see how easy it is to do in Flask and how easy it is to do with Django. So as far as my experience is concerned, both are equally capable. So it doesn't really matter much. But if you have a very small application, for a application which is very small, Flask is much easy. It's very easy. You can just get it done in a matter of minutes. But in Django, you have to set up and then create a few things, and then you have to, that takes a little bit of time. So when you compare very small applications, Django takes a little more time. Flask is faster. But intermediate level onwards, it almost takes the same amount of time for both Flask and Django. So that's how it is. Right. All right. Now let me come here and show you something here. So since I've already installed Flask, so I hope you have noted down the command for installing Flask. Pip install Python Flask. That's it. So you don't have to worry about that again. So what I have to do is just invoke Python command line, and you see. So let me show something like this. You have a line here. Okay, from Flask import Flask. Let me copy this. So if I say from Flask import Flask, Flask import Flask. Okay, if it goes through and gives me command line, yeah. So if it gives me a command line, that means the Flask is installed and it is ready to run. Okay, it is ready to run. Now I'll exit from here. Now here I'm showing you a very simple thing about what happens here in the Flask application. This is a very simple Flask application where if I access this website, it will just show me hello puppy. Okay, it will just greet me hello puppy. So it's like there's a set of things that we are doing here. So maybe I'll just show you in a bit, probably one other example, so that you just get to know what really is happening. So this is a very simple Flask application where you have created a Flask object. So don't worry again. So I'm just showing you explaining it to you line by line here, and you just have to really get a feel of it again. Don't really try to understand it. Now here, what I'm specifying here is I'm saying whenever the user accesses the website, give him a response like this. Say, hello puppy. That's it. So that's a very simple response. So I told you about the request and response in the previous slide. So what I'm trying to do here in Flask is I'm on the server side. And on the server side, I'm ready to accept various requests from the client. And here, I'm developing a web application which can actually accept one request only, that is the root request, the basic request. And when the user requests it, I'm going to send a response like this saying, hello, puppy. That's what I'm going to do here. Okay, so let us try to run this and see what happens. So here, I'm just saying app.run. I'm going to run this application, the Flask application, and see what happens. Okay. So let me come here. So Flask started. All that you have to do in order to run this server is say Python 00. So just say hello puppy.py. So it should start the server. So you can see the server is actually started here. 127.0.0.1 5000. So this is the basic IP address and the port of the web application on the server. So in order to actually invoke this, all that I have to do is just go to one of your web browsers. Just go to one of your web browsers and say 127.0.1 and say enter 5000. So let's say do this. You say hello puppy. You see, I sent a request by you see this one. Once I'll do it once again. I'll just do this once again because you might you just observe this. So here I'm going to send an IP address. Send an IP address like this 127.0.1 5000. Okay. So this is the request. So I press enter. So the request will go. The response comes. So this is how the actual thing actually worked. So if you come here, you see I sent a request and the response came as a HTML tag. Okay, so we have a question here. Is the IP address created automatically in all the fields? Not really. It is by default it takes 127.0.0.1 as the default IP address because I'm running the server in the same location as my client. I'm running it in the local host. Local host means the laptop or the system on which I'm running the server. However, if your server is sitting somewhere on some other system or something like that, you will access the server using that system's IP address. So you are supposed to know the IP address of it. Since we cannot remember all the IP addresses of all the websites because every website sits on its own server and its own port and things like that, right? Since we cannot remember, we will have the names like google.com. Okay, so the google.com is the name given to an IP address actually. So when you say www.google.com, on the background there will be something called as a DNS lookup. Okay, domain name server. So there will be something called domain name server. It looks up to what google.com means and what is the relevant IP address for it, and it will shoot out a request. So that's how it works actually. And the Google server will give me a response. In fact, every system that is connected to the internet has got an IP address. Every system that has got every system that is connected to the internet has got an IP address. You can actually go to Google and say, what's my IP? When you say, what's my IP, it will give you the IP address of your system when it is connected to the internet. And that is a very unique IP address. It's a very unique IP address. Hopefully I answered your question. Right. Okay, so this is what happened here. So what I can do is I can just come here and stop the server. Let's say I'll say Control-C here. So I have stopped the server. Now after stopping the server, if I go and request it, so nothing will get. You see, you can't reach the page because the server stopped. You get my point? You get my point here? Since the server stopped, you're basically not able to reach there. Okay, let me give you one more example, slightly better example. So I have a few more examples here. but I think I have a few more minutes. So let me show you one more thing. So this is another thing. So what I'm trying to do is I am adding one more page into my website called information. Okay. So whenever the user requests information, so I'm going to simply say puppies are cute. When the user requests hello puppy, the response will request the root, like the IP address, just the IP address. I'm going to say hello puppy. If I want to request some more information on puppies, I can say the IP address plus the URL. This is called as the URL. So these are called as URLs. URL means Uniform Resource Locators. So Uniform Resource Locators are addresses on servers where data is present. Now, that being said, so /information is an URL, and when you use this URL when you request, so this is the response that you're going to get. So let me run this server, this application, and see what happens. So I'll say Python 01, so basic routes.py. And let me go back to my server and say this. Okay, so hello puppy. So this is fine. But I have also added one more view. So these are called as views. Okay, so let me tell you this. So this is one view because this is how it is formatting. This is the second view. And go on adding as many views as you want. That's how it is. That's how it is going to be designed. Now, since I have another view called information, I can say information. When I say information, you see puppies are cute. So you're getting this vertical. Okay. Now again, you should observe if I stop this particular thing, okay, and try to request from here, you're not going to get any. Okay, so you can't read the page because I've stopped the server. So this is the mechanism of that. So this is the browser. This is the Microsoft Edge browser, from where I'm trying to request some information, and the server is running on my own laptop. So that's why it has got 127.0.0.1. So it's called as a local host. Okay, and whenever I request this view, whatever the view that I have mentioned, will get activated and it will start running. Okay, so that's exactly what happens. So let me pick up one more example. Okay, so let me see what is there inside this. I'll straight away go into a little bit complicated examples or something like that, basic form. Now, let me, is that ID for running Python necessary? Not really. So this is one of the things that I prefer because it has got a very neat way of actually organizing data. So there are a lot of other things. You can also use Anaconda suite. Okay, there is something called Anaconda. So Anaconda comes with an ID, which is called Spider. It also has the Jupyter notebook. Okay, very interesting Jupyter notebook. We can use that also. You can use Sublime Text. You can use VS Code. Okay, VS Code. You can use Atom. There are so many Python IDEs. So IDE is only a way of way of inputting your Python code. Using that IDE, you can write your code, and in whatever be the IDE, on the background, there must be a Python processor. That is, a Python interpreter should be there. Okay, so that's the idea. So that's the idea. So Atom is one thing because it looks very neat. You see, I can see all the files on the left-hand side. I can see the code. I can run it right here, and I can switch between the things, and it makes my life a bit easy. And moreover, this has got a very interesting thing. Let me show you very quickly. Let us say, let's say I want to add one new new file here. Okay, let's say a new file. Let's say that would be a HTML file. Okay, test.html file. Okay, so here I have a HTML file. Let's say I have to start writing a HTML code. So if you, in order to write HTML code, you know that you have to start writing a lot of things. But here, even as I simply HTML and then say yes, you see it gives me the necessary script so that I can start. So now I can add the body to this, and I can or I can write all sorts of things from here. So it has got a few good features like this, which can help me write code a little faster. That's the reason I use it. There are a lot of IDEs like this which can help you write code a little faster because it auto completes a lot of things and it can give you suggestions. And whenever you import some certain things, right? Whenever you import some things, like let me go back to that word jungle. So whenever you see here, you see the function is highlighted and it tells you what are the different things that you need to pass into the function. That's a very important thing. So otherwise, if this feature is not there, every time you have to go to the documentation, see what are the different things that you need to have, and then you have to refer all the time to the documentation. So this is another very interesting feature here. Okay, and it has got a lot of plugins. So if I go to the packages, you can see a lot of plugins here. Okay, so these plugins help me run the script on the spot, and there are a lot of Hydrogen. Hydrogen can help me run the script then and there itself. A lot of things like that. Some good features are there. That's why it is useful. So this is useful, and very similar things are there. So I have just just using this. What I use is I use Anaconda, I use Jupyter. So anyway, the moment I use Anaconda, Jupyter Notebooks is inbuilt in it, and I use Atomite. So these are the two things that I kind of use for the projects that I create. Right. All right. So let me pick up one more thing just to show you basic template form example. Okay. See, so this is a very simple example where I have a form. Okay, so there will be an index HTML, and then there is a sign up form. Okay, then there is a sign up form, and finally I'll also have the HTML. So this example will give you a feel of simple website, how a website would work. Okay, so I created a sign up form. I created a thank you view. So these are all called views. So I request, I basically whenever I enter into the website, the first thing that happens is index.html. And the index.html is written here. So here, let me come to the index.html. So here is the index.html. So this is the index.html. Okay. This doesn't look like a pure HTML because this is a template. This is called as templates in Python. So wherein you can actually refer to the Python variables, right? As a Python variables from here. So that's what is called as a template. There's a question. Okay, so I'll just address that just in a moment. So I'm just coming to the end of the webinar. So I'm just going to address all the queries, and I'm just going to guide you to various things. Okay. So let me show you what I'm doing here. So there's something called form examples.py. Okay. So let me run this. So I'll have to go back to the Flask template. So I'll say Python 06 form example.py. Okay. Now again the thing has started. So let's see what are the different things we have here. Okay, let's go and see the website right now. Okay. So initially I had showed you how the request and response works, and right now I'm just going to I've just upgraded a few things. And I'm going to run the website and see the website actually looks like. This is the home page. When I say this is the home page, so if you want to sign up for auditions, you can just say click here. It goes to the login page like this, and you can just say John and Joe, so some name here, and you just say submit form. You can see this. So thank you for signing up, John. Now what you can do is, this is only to show how forms can be really working, and again I can go back to home page, and you can see here, and then here I can say Jane, Joe, Jane Doe. So I can just say submit form, and again say it just gets submitted, and again I can go back to the home page. Now you are able to see how Flask can be used to develop simple websites like this, the Python Flask. Okay. Now, what will happen to the data that I have entered here? Jane Doe, John Doe. Okay, what will happen? Right now, I'm just not doing anything with it, hence it is not stored. In the actual web scenario, what happens is this data that we enter from the web page goes to the server, and it is stored in the database as a model. And whenever you want to retrieve it, you can request for it, and the model comes up. Yeah. So likewise, we can, and that's again, we have to understand how Flask can be used for creating the database operations called CRUD. C-R-U-D. CRUD. CRUD means create, retrieve, modify, and delete. Okay, good. CRUD operations. So these are the CRUD operations. We will have to understand what the CRUD operations are. And not only this, there are also something called REST APIs, and there are a whole set of advanced topics related to Flask. So what I've given you at this point of time in the last 1 hour session is I've introduced how core Python can be used for developing Python-based applications. I've also shown how Python can be used for data visualization, which is one of the core topics in data science. And I've also showed how Python can be useful for developing websites. Here I showed you a website. We can also create web applications. Websites are those things which you can open on a browser. Web application is a standalone thing. It doesn't require a browser to run. Okay, so that is what we call as web application. There we also work on something called REST APIs, which actually deal with JSON data and things like that. So we can also do that with Python Flask. So that comes to the end of the webinar. So hopefully I have briefed you about the capabilities of Python in 3 different areas. One is core Python, one is data science, the other one is web development using Flask, right? So that's we have barely touched the surface of what Python can do. Hopefully everybody has got a feel of what Python can actually do, right? And further, if you want to learn more, you can actually contact Amstar Technologies, and you'll also get an email saying asking for feedback and also asking for other details. You can just let us know what more you want and how we can help you out in this regard. So I'm open for Q&A session, and if you have any questions, you can actually put that on the chat box. I'll answer them one by one. The first question that we have here is, as a beginner, I would like to get a complete course on Python. Yes, of course. So the complete Python course would include learning the basics and intermediate of things about core Python. Then in the advanced phase, depending on your inclination, so you might want to go for data science, machine learning, deep learning, AI, that stream, or you might want to go to developing web frameworks and web applications and testing and DevOps and things like that. That's another stream. So we have courses for both, and you could actually contact Amstar Technologies. Mr. Arun will be able to help on the timelines and most of the other details about the courses. Right. Yeah. So are there any tutorials? Of course, there are a lot of them actually. All that you need to do is you need to have a plan for learning, and you need to have a set of goals, learning goals, and you should probably go through a certain professional course, and also put some effort from your own end to actually do some projects, right? So that's the main thing. So any questions? Yeah. So any other questions from anybody else? Yeah. Meanwhile, I still have a few more minutes. By the time you actually type in your questions, I can also show you one more very important thing called Hackerrank. Okay, HACK Hackerrank. Okay, .com. The Hackerrank.com actually is useful for useful for participating in coding challenges. And this HackerRank is an international website where people from all over the world participate in coding challenges, right? Now, so you participating in coding challenges here in HackerRank can be a very good add-on on your resume. And in the industry, people recognize this. Hackerrank. So I encourage you to go and visit hackerrank.com. And from here, you can also visit Kaggle.com, Kaggle.com, which is more into data science related competitions. It also is the place where you can actually learn and compete in the international coding platform. So what happens is like you have competitions. You can go to competitions, and you can choose one of the competitions and actually work on a live project. And each of these live projects sometimes will be given some prize money if you actually really do well. But in order to come to a point where you can actually participate in this, you have to first go through a good professional course, then participate in the Hackerrank you know, competitions, and then take up some knowledge base projects here. So each of these knowledge base projects is like a live project. It is equivalent to a live project. Any project that is done here, you can actually put that on your resume, and industry actually recognizes it. And later at a point of time, you can actually participate in all these competitions, which offers you a lot of prize money. So this is one of the things that I wanted to share with you, and hopefully everybody is okay with the webinar. Hopefully, I have introduced you to several different topics in Python. Hopefully, it was helpful. Thank you so much. If I think there are no more questions, and if there are any queries that you have, I'm available on email. You can actually Amstar will get in touch with you. You can post your queries. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mr. Purushottam. I believe all are fine with this topic.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thanks all for joining and taking up this webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Good day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good day. Good day. Bye. ಹೇಳಿದ್ನಲ್ಲ